So it is Mark Gorkin, the stress doc, who offers us a poetic anthem to burnout and beyond. For the phoenix to rise from the ashes, one must know the pain to transform the fire to burning desire. Each of the services that makes up the Burnout worship series is about knowing a certain kind of pain so we can transform that fire and rise again. Last Sunday, it was about being a teenager in today's world, and in following Sundays, we're going to look at pollution, then infoglut, then the death rebirth themes of Easter. As for today, well, traffic, you know very well. Have you ever noticed, asked George Carlin, that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anyone driving faster than you is a maniac? Ever? Here in Atlanta, the 8 a.m. rush hour is from 6:30 to 9:30 in the morning. The 5 o'clock rush hour is from 3:30 to 7 o'clock. Friday's rush hour starts Thursday morning, and it lasts through 2 a.m. on a Saturday. That's all funny. But underneath that laughter is pain. Although it is important to point out that there is nothing new about traffic per se. Tom Vanderbilt, author of Traffic, Why We Drive the Way We Do, takes us back to ancient Rome and its congestion of carts and chariots and pedestrians. The traffic got so bad that Caesar declared a daytime ban on vehicles of all kinds, except under some circumstances. Carts could enter Rome only after 3 p.m. The unanticipated side effects of that was that, well, no one could actually sleep at night, given the noise of the carts and the chariots rattling through the streets, rolling through the streets, alarming various animals who would then bark or squawk or neigh or screech, all of it culminating in the worst racket imaginable. From ancient Rome through medieval England, which ticketed speeding carts. I'm going to let that settle in there. 19th century New York, where horses were killing an average of 4 pedestrians per week. Oh my, yeah. And then the invention of the bicycle. Okay, so I want to know what that's all about after the service. The invention of the bicycle and its aftermath spooked horses, cyclists and non-cyclists engaging in fisticuffs, city leaders trying to ban bicycles outright from their streets, and on and on. Nothing is new about traffic per se, but once the automobile enters into history, a truly new chapter begins. The car, says Tom Vanderbilt, was soon to create a world of its own, a world in which humans, separated from everything outside the car, but still somehow connected, would move at speeds beyond anything for which their evolutionary history had prepared them. And let's really think about that. This world of its own that car traffic creates. This world we spend more time in than in eating meals with family or going on vacation or sharing this sacred space together as we do on a Sunday morning. This world that we spend more money on than on food or on health care. This world of white-knuckle driving, of yelling at people who can't possibly hear you, of blaming the car right in front of you in a traffic jam, even though you know rationally that whatever the cause of the traffic jam is, it is not the person right in front of you, but you blame them anyhow. This world of its own, its costs to social well-being and the economy and the environment, these costs are punishing. But here, I want to focus more on the costs to our physical health and our emotional well-being. So very costly. Positive psychologist Daniel Gilbert says that it is entirely unpredictable and therefore a different kind of hell every day. That's the positive psychologist talking. Humans can pretty much adapt to anything if there is sufficient predictability, but you do not get that with traffic. You never know, in fact, what you are going to get on any given day. You never know. It could be the car behind you that honks because you stopped at a stop sign, but they want you to plow on through. Or congestion that hits an area that's usually free-flowing. Or the jerk that merges last minute. When you are the jerk that merges last minute, but because you made an honest mistake, but you can't possibly explain that to any of the cars around you, so the jerk label stays. When, after your mistake, another car aggressively follows you, and you are terrified by the road rage possibilities, and so on. The traffic world is unpredictable, and it is also incompatible with the simple flight or fight mechanism that our bodies are designed around. Psychologist Jerry Kennard points out that ideally we use one or the other to dissipate stress when it occurs. Sitting in a car is incompatible with the stress buildup. There is no physical outlet. We can't fight and we can't run, so tension simply builds with no obvious outlet. When an outlet does present itself, for example, we perceive another driver to not be paying attention, they're looking at their cell phone, or they're taking unfair advantage of something, well, there is a great danger of reacting aggressively. But the most troubling thing to recognize about the world that car traffic creates is this. It is essentially a kind of togetherness that dehumanizes. In the world beyond car traffic, we are brought into the recognition of one another's humanity by being able to see a person's eyes and to hear their voice, and for them to hear your voice, for there to be conversation. But these things are not possible within the world that traffic creates. We want it to be possible. We talk to people, other people in their cars, as if they could hear us. We persist in the simplest of human desires and actions. But our persistence flies in the face of reality. Sitting in our cars, behind all the armor of plate glass and steel, human identity and human contact are erased. And that leads to humans acting inhuman. It just does. Road rage is not merely about our biological flight or fight mechanisms being frustrated and the resulting buildup of stress and the inevitable eruption that happens because you can't tamp it down anymore. It's more than that. It is also about how anonymity silences the angel on one shoulder and amplifies the devil on this shoulder. That devil who tells us, you betcha, let that jerk have it. You can't see him, you can't hear him, so it's easy to forget that he's a human being like yourself. Plus, and best of all, no one's going to hold you accountable. No one can see you. Naturally, it means that the very nicest person behind the wheel can turn into something not so very nice at all. Of course, I am the exception, Mr. Senior Minister Man, so. This is the pain. This is the fire we want to transform into burning desire so we can be reborn. And the question is, how? Need a few days off after Sunday night drive from the vacation house? That's called a honku, which is a variety of haiku. Let that sink in. It's a honku. It's specifically meant to channel one's road rage into something a little more creative. Apparently, the inventor is one Aaron Naparstek, who used to throw eggs at cars that irritated him. But after being confronted by an enraged, egg-splattered motorist, he decided he needed to change up his life strategies. He began writing honku as a form of road rage self-help. And the new poetic form caught on. So, some more examples. Alaska's melting. Hope your Yukon Denali doubles as a boat. See the 575? There are only 3 types of drivers: the insane, the morons, and me. I made the baby cry. Sorry about that. Atlanta traffic. Easy. Just wait for a moment. That is the sound of a growing congregation. Come on. This is good. All right. Atlanta traffic. Easy to see why Sherman burned this city down. We are wanting to transform the fire to burning desire. We want to practice what the stress doc Mark Gorkin calls safe stress. And these honku illustrate the first of the AAA regimen for how to do that. The first A is about action. Don't allow the distressing and dehumanizing impact of the world of traffic. Don't allow it to have its way with you. It's that old story about the 2 wolves that inhabit every human heart, one helpful and one hurtful, culminating in the all-important question, which one of those wolves will you feed? The honku remind me never to forget to laugh at myself and laugh at the silliness and the insanity of that inhuman traffic world. Laughter humanizes. Beyond laughter, other helpful actions include listening to audiobooks or podcasts. Use the drive time to feed your mind. How many of you do that? Okay. Or how about this? How about working on your gratitude list? Spirituality writer Jim Manny tells a story about a friend of his that was stuck in some terrible New York City traffic late on a summer Friday afternoon. He was really stuck, he writes, sitting in his car on a narrow east-west cross street in Manhattan, going nowhere. He grew impatient, and then he grew angry, and after a while, he started to think about how pitiful his life was. His friends were smarter, wealthier, healthier, happier than he was. He hadn't accomplished anything significant. He was stuck in life, just like he was stuck in traffic. And then he called a friend, and he asked for help. And the guy said, if you're just sitting there in traffic, make a gratitude list. So my friend, he pulled out a notebook and pen and made a list of all the things he was grateful for. And a few of them, of course, were big things: family, friends, job. But most of them were little things: the weekend coming up, an excellent novel he was reading, a compliment from his boss the previous day, an exhilarating jog along the East River that morning, his comfortable car. And soon his mood lifted. The exercise in gratitude restored balance to his thinking. It wasn't a trick. My friend saw that his life really was full of good things. Gratitude was the truth. If you don't already have one, sometime today, brave the traffic and go buy a gratitude journal and keep it near the driver's side and use it. Definitely, a helpful action behind the wheel is to practice some kind of mindfulness meditation, eyes open. I didn't think I needed to specify that, but I decided just to be extra careful. Open eye mindfulness meditation. It helps dissipate the stress beautifully. And in a moment, we are going to try together an example of something like this. The first A is about action, and now consider the second A, acceptance. Acceptance actually is the prerequisite for action, because if you can't accept the nature of traffic reality that confronts you in the moment, if you want to invest your energy in some form of resenting it or denying that it has no right to exist, it should not exist, well, you won't have any energy available to do any of those creative actions like humor or listening to an audio book or keeping a gratitude list or meditating. You'll just stay stuck in that downward spiral. That's just where you'll stay. Acceptance will release you. But it's important to be clear about one thing. The acceptance I am talking about isn't saying that you have to like traffic. It is about saying, I accept this situation as it is, even though traffic sucks. This key insight comes from psychologist Paul Coleman, who says, breathing in acceptance when the situation is painful is like being inoculated for a disease. I thought of you CDC people when I read this. It's like being inoculated for a disease. It allows you to take a little bit of what ails you, to take in a little bit of that, so as to avoid the greater, more deadly disease. When you accept what is, you can figure out with greater calmness and clarity what actually you can do in the moment, what you can change about your circumstances. Acceptance means accepting a tiny bit of traffic horribleness into you, only to prevent traffic horribleness from wholly consuming you from the outside in. Inoculation. That is what acceptance is all about. But even before acceptance, what is needed is the third A, the third and last A. Attitude. Listen to what Zen teacher Joko Beck has to say. She's wonderful. Listen to this. Life always gives us exactly the teacher we need at every moment. This includes every mosquito, every misfortune, every red light, every traffic jam, every obnoxious supervisor or employee, every illness, every loss, every moment of joy or depression, every addiction, every piece of garbage, every breath, every moment is the guru. If you take the Zen attitude into traffic, into everywhere you go, you will stay human and you will survive and thrive. You will most assuredly be able to practice safe stress. Every moment is the guru. Every one. Amen.